Today on Doomed! The long-awaited New York primary day is less than a week away. And on this episode of Doomed, well, we were going to talk with two insurgent progressive U.S. congressional challengers, but we're delivering you one, and it's going to be a good one. Lauren Ashcraft, who's running in the New York Congressional District 12, will be joining the show to discuss her campaign, the incumbent she's running against, and, one question I really want to ask her, actually, is how life changed for a campaign running before and then after, during the coronavirus pandemic. Without any further ado, let me pull us both up on the screen here. Actually, let me first explain, because I was promoting two candidates earlier in the day. Lindsey Boylan will be joining us another day. She had something come up, and we'll be rescheduling with her. But that doesn't make me any less excited to talk with you, Lauren. Lauren Ashcraft, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad it worked out this way, because we just get more time to talk, just you and me.
Sounds good.
Now, I want to start with, let's start with this, actually. There was the New York One debate that you took part in just aired yesterday. And I know from speaking with some other candidates that just getting a debate, especially this year with everything going on, just getting a debate as a primary challenger with some of these incumbents has been near impossible. But you and I believe the other challengers were on the debate as well. But you guys pulled it off and got the debate with the incumbent in New York Congressional District 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the voters deserve to have the candidates kind of talk about the differences in their platform. So I'm glad we got to have it. There was actually two debates, and Congresswoman Maloney did not make the first one. But yesterday the New York One debate did air, and I hope people tune in and watch the rerun, and it's available at newyork1.com.
Now, tell me a little bit about who you are, why you're running, and let's leave it there before I throw too much at you at once. So people who are tuning in who may not have, because I've seen you around on Twitter. I just mentioned earlier that I've noticed you. I recognized you at New York Queens meetings. But for people who didn't see you at a Queens DSA meeting or on Twitter, explain who you are and why you're running.
Yeah, so I grew up part of a family that just went completely ignored by the government. And on one side of my family, my grandfather was killed in a coal mining accident, and I never had the privilege of meeting him. And my grandmother, an immigrant from Japan, faced a lot of xenophobia and racism, even when she was mourning her husband and trying to figure out how to put food on her table. And on the other side of my family, my grandfather fell while he was working, and he couldn't hire a caretaker because that costs a lot of money. Especially if you lose your income, you can't afford that. So caretakers were all of us. And I just grew up understanding that the government isn't there. And it's a pretty sad realization to have. And then whenever I saw people like Bernie Sanders campaigning and talking about how our politics are so heavily influenced by corporate money and, the huge wealth gap, that really resonated with me, and I started getting more involved in politics. And that was also around the time that I was working in the financial sector as well. And I was just having this whole realization of how broken our system is, because in one year I'm hearing about how terrible it is that corporate money is muddying our politics. I go to work every day and I see that people are being laid off all around me, and they're citing that the company didn't have the revenue that they were expecting. And then you look in the newspaper and you see that the CEOs and senior executives are boasting about record bonuses, record stock buybacks, record pay raises, and everything in my brain snapped. I became a democratic socialist and got really involved in organizing in my community. I'm a stand-up comedian, so it looked a little different from other people's organizing. We had shows that would every single show would feature a different nonprofit in the community that we were helping to fundraise for, recruit volunteers for. A lot of them were soup kitchens or organizations fighting for civil rights or women's rights. And that was a way that I felt like we were starting to fight back. Then Donald Trump was elected to office, and it's pretty scary to see your bodily autonomy always on the chopping block as a woman, and to know that somebody who brags about sexually assaulting women is our president. I got really involved in helping to organize the Women's March on New York. So all of that together, just it was a slow build to me deciding that I couldn't sit this one out, that our neighboring district, New York 14, has a representative that's made the Green New Deal part of our everyday conversation. Nothing's come out of our district like that.
Who is that you're possibly talking about? I don't know if I follow.
just like the only person that is known by AOC.
Right.
Yeah. But like, she wasn't even in office yet, but she made that part of our everyday conversation. You know what the Green New Deal is. I know what the Green New Deal is. What conversation has Carolyn Maloney started? I couldn't think of anything. I even Googled it. Couldn't think of a thing.
Right.
And so I'm running and I'm fighting for accessibility and disability rights. I'm fighting for single-payer Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. And I'm fighting for true criminal justice reform, which my opponent has a terrible record on. And I, called her out and got her to slap the table and start yelling in the debate. I encourage you all to watch it. She didn't really like to be called out, but I'm not going to stop doing it, because it's not acceptable that she voted for the crime bill and then voted just 5 years ago to militarize the police.
Right.
And then within the last 2 weeks has co-sponsored bills that help to demilitarize the police. But where were you? Right. That's exactly why we do this. That's why we primary, is we have these inactive leaders that are just getting politically pressured into doing the right things sometimes. But we deserve to have somebody who gets into office with a vision. And my vision is equality and closing that wealth gap and making sure that people who've gone oppressed and marginalized and ignored all this time, like my family and like my neighbors, finally have a fighter fighting for them in the federal government.
Now we're going to make a little bit of history. Now you said Carolyn Maloney has never been, on the forefront of a conversation. We're about to make her the topic of this conversation right now. So not the convo she probably wants to have, but
yeah. So
what, for people who are unfamiliar with her, you just mentioned some things about her, but for people who are unfamiliar with her, why run against, other than you live in the district, obviously, so but why specifically should, tell us a bit about Maloney and why people should vote for her for you over her?
Yeah, her record is terrible. And if you can't think of what your representative's vision is, then their vision is probably to stay in office. And I've been on this crusade for a year and a half of my life, and I've read her decisions and her votes, and I know like everything she's voted for backwards and forwards. I don't know why she's running again. I'm being completely honest. I don't know what her vision is. It changes sometimes if she's being politically pressured. She's accepted money from Donald Trump. She's accepted money from Bloomberg and John Katsimatidis, and then calls herself a progressive. It doesn't make sense. You voted for the crime bill for the Iraq War. You've helped to repeal the Glass-Steagall Act, which allowed the fraud, corruption, and corporate greed that caused the 2008 Great Recession. And then you voted to increase the military budget, and that surplus military equipment and weapons, you voted to flow to local police forces. I don't understand how that's progressive. I don't get it. If someone could explain it to me, I'm all ears.
Right. Do you know if she started calling herself a progressive, say around 2016?
I think it was probably like 2018.
Yeah, okay, there we
Like,
go.
yeah,
I'm alluding to the fact that ever since Bernie Sanders created a whole I wouldn't say create, but I think there were a lot of people who were on the left and were progressives who were vocal about it during the Obama years. And then there were even more who weren't vocal about it during the Obama years. And then Bernie Sanders runs, and all those people who were vocal about it all of a sudden look around and see a whole bunch of people coming out and saying, you know what, I am a progressive. And
yeah,
all of a sudden we have a movement that
exactly.
honestly disappeared when Obama came into office. Truthfully, I mean, there was a huge anti-war left during the Bush era, and then Obama gets into office, and I feel like people sort of thought that the Democrats would just deliver now, and of course we all know how that turned out. But
Yeah. I mean, it's a word that I think if you accept corporate PAC money, like if you're getting on the Bernie train, if you accept corporate PAC money, that's like rule number one. You're breaking. If you
right.
call yourself a progressive, but I think my opponent has taken over $700,000 in corporate PAC dollars this cycle alone.
Right.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I've been doing this, for a very long time. I know a lot of the names in this city, Congress people, senators, local representatives, statewide representatives. Maloney has always just been a name that I knew because of who she is, but I honestly could not attach her to a specific thing if you asked me to. Like you said, she's never been at the forefront of a conversation.
she's just there.
Right. Right. And what now she is representative, and you're running for congressional district 12. What encompasses district 12? Now, let's try to be a little bit more specific about it in terms of people who maybe are not from New York. In terms of
Totally.
like what boroughs and all that, just not neighborhoods. I would get it, but some people listening to this show might not.
Yeah, so it's a lot of the east side of Manhattan, western Queens, and North Brooklyn. So if you look at a map and you see two rivers going on either side of Manhattan, it's like if you would draw a circle around the East River. And it also has Roosevelt Island that sits in the middle of that river too. So that's for the non-New Yorkers, but for the New Yorkers, it's parts of Greenpoint, Williamsburg, Long Island City, Lower East Side, Midtown East, Upper East Side, Astoria, Long Island City, Roosevelt Island.
Now that's a very interesting district because you have on the Queens end a lot of young progressives, and then on the Manhattan end, I feel like that's where there's more wealthy Manhattanites. Is that correct?
You know, we have a lot of conversations with people all over the district, and I think this, and certainly wealth is more heavily concentrated in the Upper East Side, and the other areas of the district are, a lot of people are quite bluntly struggling to stay here and struggling to make it and pay their rent. So unfortunately, there is that stereotype that it's a wealthy district, but based on my experiences, it's very, very not true. And I've spoken with so many people that are literally on the verge of homelessness, which these are the exact people that I'm fighting for.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
I'm actually
Upper East
not to
Side.
cut you off, but I'm actually really glad you brought that up
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people when they look at rent prices in New York and they see an apartment that rents $4, $5, $6,000 a month, they're like, oh, whoever's living there must be rich. But then you look into it and it's like split between 4, 5, 6, 7 different people who are all living in this this apartment that is not 4, 5, 6, 7 bedrooms. That's a great point.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, people share studios with one, two people. It's people are just really struggling to hang on, especially since so many people have lost their jobs and have been furloughed because of coronavirus. This district's taking a huge hit. And quite frankly, a lot of people, a lot of volunteers have had to relocate outside of the city. And literally, we're on the verge of homelessness, and I know so many people still are. So it's really upsetting that I don't feel we've had someone really fighting for us. And when I think about the fact that so many families are living off of that $1,200 check from March that they maybe got, and that's how they're supposed to pay rent for the last 4 months. Every one of us should be angry and vote your representatives out. That's disgusting. But I mean, as a representative, I just couldn't sleep at night knowing that my district is so affected by an economic and health crisis that most of them can't pay rent right now.
Right. Now let's talk about that now. I wasn't planning on getting into this so soon, but I think that's the perfect segue right there. And what has your experience been in your congressional district? I mean, you've already mentioned a little bit of it, but maybe in more detail in terms of, how are people holding up right now with the coronavirus? You had mentioned that there are people worried about losing their home, people who are struggling to get by. What is the do you notice a contrast between the Manhattan side and the Queens side, or give us a little bit more about what you see in your district?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the wealth is concentrated on the Upper East Side, but that doesn't mean that everybody in the Upper East Side is wealthy. There certainly are people that are sharing apartments and working class and young and in school and things like that. So it's really hard to say that one side of the river is not struggling, but one is. But I mean, Billionaire Row is in Manhattan, and that belongs to our district. Trump's penthouse is in our district. Bloomberg lives in the district. So we have, the median income is
Have you
pretty
checked? Have you
skewed.
checked on Bloomberg to see how he's holding up? Have you checked to see how?
I'm sure he's doing fine.
I think so. Although he might be a little bit sad that it's apparently the Biden campaign isn't going to use his $1 billion political tech firm. Which imagine putting all that money into a tech firm with the single goal of believing the Democratic candidate for president is going to definitely pay you to use it, and then they don't. A little bit of that. I enjoy that, but that's another story.
Yeah, I just I'm also like on a crusade about saying that you can't earn $1 billion. There's just no way to do it. You exploit it. And that is just becoming so evident when we know that the country's billionaires have increased their wealth so much during this crisis, while the average person is struggling and is losing their income, and millions of people are unemployed right now. And I think about Jeff Bezos being well on his way to becoming the world's first trillionaire, and literally I saw that page that they were asking for donations so that Amazon workers could have paid leave.
Right.
He could personally pay for that. And that's exactly how you become a billionaire slash trillionaire, is you cheat people out of the benefits that they deserve.
Right.
I'm very passionate about this.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to make one remark and then we're going to jump into the next thing, and it's very Bezos related. What I want to say is that you bring Bezos up is that I read it not long ago. I think it was right before the coronavirus pandemic hit here. And I read a quote from him. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was a question about why he was putting all this money into his space exploration project that he has. And it was simply something like, I don't know what to do with all this money. Hello? You have a company where you're literally raising funds from average Americans to pay them during the coronavirus, to pay your workers during the coronavirus, and you're saying that you can't find a good use to put your billions of dollars? I mean, come on, buddy.
It's ridiculous. And I've had the pleasure and honor of speaking with Chris Smalls, who lost his job for protesting to stand up for the safety of his coworkers. And I think about the fact that Amazon is just such a terrible employer. And that's what happens if you stand up for your safety is you lose your job. And it's exactly what it means to be a billionaire in today's society is you're cheating people out of having a livable wage, you're cheating them out of benefits, and you're cheating them out of safety.
Right.
That's the kind of world that we live in right now, and that's why I'm doing this.
Now, you are in the district. So you would represent the district where the infamous Amazon HQ2 was supposed to be built. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Now let's talk a little bit about that. Now I've done a few episodes actually on that, and it was stunning to me to see just such a stark contrast actually in how even New Yorkers sort of viewed it. I feel like people who were really plugged in to the political world understood the ramifications of that headquarters opening up in Long Island City. And then there were a lot of New Yorkers who probably consider themselves to be liberal, maybe even some progressive, who just didn't get why you wouldn't want 25,000 paying jobs to come to your city. Now, let's talk about what. So what? How did you feel about the Amazon HQ2? I mean, I could guess, but let's hear it from you though, just to be safe. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I thought it was completely ridiculous that we were rolling out the red carpet and offering tax incentives and so much money so that Amazon would want to have a headquarters in New York City. Of course they want to be in New York City.
Right,
this is the center of the universe. If you want to be here, then you can come, but you don't get a cent from me. So whenever I think about the fact, I'm thankful they didn't end up coming here because I live in Long Island City and I wouldn't be able to pay my rent. Talk about plopping down, which by the way, those 25,000 jobs, we found out because our electeds didn't bother to ask. We found out that those 25,000 jobs were mostly 25,000 people that they were going to bring and plop down in the middle of Long Island City.
Right.
Where
also,
I live.
There also was no guarantee it'd be 25,000. Like we get, like the city, the state guaranteed Amazon the incentives. Like those were written in stone. Like this is what you get.
Yeah.
Yet but from them what we got was like, we're gonna try to get you 25,000 jobs, and you're just gonna go out there and say we're bringing 25,000 jobs. Like it was unbelievable. So
also, like, since when do we trust Amazon to, like, make good on their promises? Look, they're starving people of having paid leave during the largest pandemic that we've ever seen in our life.
Right.
We're gonna trust these people.
Right.
Like, it's obviously they don't care about worker safety and they don't care about allowing their workers to have a livable wage, and I don't trust them with anything that they say they're going to do. If you want to come to New York City, then come, and then you pay your fair share of taxes, and that's how it works.
Right. I mean, you had mentioned how it would if they opened up their headquarters there and brought those 25,000 techies from Washington, then you would have been displaced. But I think a lot of people. But I think a lot of people didn't even. But I think that's what people thought. Like, oh yeah, it's gonna affect Long Island City. No, it was gonna be like I'm in Flushing, Queens, and
awesome.
It would have been like a tsunami. You would have seen just the entirety of Queens like pushed out. You would have had the 7 train been inundated with more and more people using it. It's already unbearable to use the 7 train. Well, even before the coronavirus, I haven't been on the 7 since. I can't imagine getting back on the 7. The 7 is like, yeah. But like
I agree. By the time it makes it to Long Island City, like you can't get in.
Right.
It's so full.
So imagine you had like all these people who always lived in Long Island City pushed out further into Queens. On top of that, those 25,000 people, if it was even or however many Amazon got, not all of them were going to be, wealthy enough to move into Long Island City. And buy up all the big expensive condos. They would have had to also probably lived in the some of the more affordable areas of Queens and the surrounding neighborhoods. and that would have again it would have been like a wave that just changed Queens forever, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly why I believe Representative Ocasio-Cortez fought so hard against it. Is she knew it would impact her district as well, and I'm thankful she fought for my district because my representative certainly didn't. And she was even on the debate. I really encourage everyone to watch it, but on the debate, she was saying things like, "All jobs are good jobs. Why are you protesting jobs?" Hello, have you heard of Chris Smalls? Have you heard of Googling what it's like to work for Amazon in a warehouse? And I think you would be shocked to understand what everyday people face in the workplace. That's why we need people who are connected to everyday issues. And if you're so far removed from that, then what are you doing?
Right. The argument that why would you protest jobs seems like the same argument probably happened back when people were protesting for, I don't know, basic labor laws, child labor laws, 40-hour work week, weekends. I mean,
Yeah,
it seems like, if you were back then and you were protesting like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week, and then someone would have been like,
exactly.
oh, why are you protesting jobs?
Why are
So it's a
you
bizarre.
protesting this work?
Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of coal miners and other people doing dangerous jobs protested their jobs a lot throughout the years.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
so,
my grandfather was literally killed in a coal mining accident. So
right.
I take worker safety very seriously. It's a very personal thing to my family. And having had those conversations with Chris Smalls and understanding the kind of environment that he was forced to work in, for him to speak up and then get fired about it, like we don't want Amazon here. Like, we're not going to roll out the red carpet for you to come and abuse my neighbors.
Right. Right. So you had mentioned you brought up the debate again. Before I forget, I wanted to ask earlier. You had said I obviously want everyone to still watch the debate because the explanation is not going to be enough. But I meant to ask you earlier. You just gave me the second shot. What did you say that had her pounding on the desk? I forgot to ask.
I asked her about her criminal justice reform platform and how she voted for the crime bill, which you and I both know has really negatively impacted communities of color across this entire country. Even still today, it has ramifications. And then I talked about how she literally voted to militarize the police and how she in 2 weeks signed on to some changes to her record. And I asked her how she thought we were supposed to believe she would lead the fight against police brutality when she's been such a slow actor to correct her own mistakes. And she just started talking about paid parental leave and started slapping her desk. And I was like, what is happening right now? It was definitely an interesting moment.
All right.
I still don't have the answer.
Sounds like some frustration that right there wasn't an answer to give. So
No, but we
yeah.
know that she cares about paid parental leave, which I would hope everyone does.
Right. So I noticed that there were a few attacks that you were forced to debunk on your Twitter page recently, and you brought up earlier that you would come out of the financial sector.
Yeah.
Um, could you explain a little bit about what that attack is on you? Because I mean, I have something to say about it in terms of I just think it's. Let me hear from you first, and then we'll.
I mean, I used to work for a big bank, and personally I understand why people don't like big banks, and I also don't. I think about what it's like to pay your rent in New York's 12th congressional district, and I have an outbox of hundreds of job applications to jobs I would have loved that I never heard back from. But unfortunately, we live in a society where you either have a job to pay your rent or you don't, and you can't pay your rent. So I worked in a bank for a little bit of time and about a year, I think it was. Very, not that long. I was a
Wait,
project
you
manager
you
in,
worked at a bank for a year?
I know.
A whole
Yeah.
year?
Yeah. I was a project manager in the legal department and crunched Excel spreadsheets all day looking at like legal regulations being followed. And that
Wow.
comes up a
Also,
lot.
I see you're in cahoots with big Microsoft Office.
I just like, yeah, I just you know what? There are a lot of people that were radicalized inside of a bank. I'm one of them. And a lot of this district has worked in the financial sector and no longer works there, like myself, and understands very well where I'm coming from. But it's come up a lot, and it's interesting. It's from two opponents, and I think it's like what they have on me or something. But it's been an interesting and repetitive conversation. Um, there are rumors that I am doing this to help big banks out, which I haven't quite figured out the logic for, but it's entertaining, and I appreciate the tenacity.
Right, right. Yeah, but what I have to say about it is I remember back in I mean the idea that, obviously if there were some sort of ties you still had to a bank, there would be some issues, but I doubt your 1 year job entrenched you into the I don't think you got Jamie Dimon on speed dial. Uh
No, also like I've been running for Congress longer than I worked for a bank.
right. And
And Congress is corrupt. Honestly, when I look at how broken Congress is and how many representatives shouldn't be there, like I'm applying for that job. Clearly I'm there trying to change something. But yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting.
well, you saw I don't know if you saw that there was an ad that just was released right before we went on the air attacking Jamal Bowman, who's running in the Bronx. And I know I know you know him. I think I've seen you guys
Oh
do
yeah.
various things together. The progressive insurgents stick together. I like that. Uh,
Yeah, and we're all on the brand new Congress slate together, so we're
right,
we're tight.
right. So there's a pack that had put out an ad attacking him for having something like $2,000 in unpaid taxes from years and years ago that he didn't even know about. That once he saw the ad, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know about this," and he paid it. He paid the $2,000, and it was like he doesn't
Wow.
even pay his taxes, and he wants to spend yours. It's like, come on, $2,000. That's like, how much money is being probably pumped into. How much money was probably pumped into that PAX campaign to help Engel out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
They could have just paid his taxes off for him.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
And
silly.
saved probably like 10 times the money.
It's really silly how much time and money is wasted on just smearing people. But if you had a vision for your district and you weren't just caught on a hot mic saying you don't care, then
Right.
maybe you wouldn't be so scared of Jamal Bowman. But
Now, it is interesting though how progressives such as yourself and Jamal, who run, are held to a different standard by the very establishment who basically has no standards. I mean, look at how Bernie Sanders was always, you know, attacked basically for maybe not being always woke enough in rhetoric for a 70 something
mm,
year old man. Whereas if you looked at his policies, they actually lined up with exactly what people complained they wanted from him. Whereas his opponents, who the complainers would vote for, did not provide those policies. It always was like so, enraging to me that these were the attacks on progressives.
yeah, no, you're right that people running moral campaigns are held to a different standard, and you know, I a lot of families have back taxes to pay. I really don't. They're just showing that he's normal. So I don't really understand how all of these attack ads and smears are going to hurt us. But here we are. We're normal people running to represent normal people. And maybe it's best that way, that you're not represented by somebody worth $30 million that doesn't fight for her district to be able to pay their bills during a pandemic.
Right. I know you say you're normal, Lauren, but have you considered that you worked a year at a bank? I mean,
Yeah.
what I wanted to bring up when you told me this was I remember back during the Occupy Wall Street days in 2011 and 2012 that some of the smartest activist voices who were given a platform in the media to talk about this, and rarely did they choose the smartest financial minds to represent Occupy in the media, because of course they wanted to portray them as a bunch of know-nothing protesters. But the smartest minds in the protests who helped form a lot of the demands that Occupy was seeking, they actually came out of the financial sector, and they saw Occupy and said, finally, something where I can say, I can't do this anymore, I'm part of something. And I've spoken to some of those people back then when I worked at the Majority Report, had them on the show, talked to them. And, the idea that someone can't work somewhere or be a part of something that they're against, and then take that information they learn and come out and really be like sort of a class traitor, even if they're not, even if they don't belong to that class, is ridiculous, because that's the best kind of ally you can have, to be quite honest. Someone who knows how the system works from the inside and wants to change it.
I mean, that's exactly what I plan to do. I would love to sit in the Financial Services Committee, knowing everything that I know, and make sure that Wall Street is regulated in a way that it's not right now. And we are all still exposed, all of us as consumers and everyday people living in the United States as taxpayers, we're all exposed to the irresponsible decisions that these people at the very top of these companies continue to make. And they throw a lot of this money at people like my opponent, who turns around and helps to deregulate Wall Street, as she did when she repealed the Glass-Steagall Act. Right. So it's a terrible cycle, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm disgusted, so I'm running for Congress.
I like it. So we talked about the coronavirus earlier, but I wanted to ask you specifically, we talked about how, your district was handling it, how who your constituents would be, the people you're meeting, how they're holding up and what they're experiencing. But I want to know what was your experience as someone running for office, running, for a U.S. congressional seat, how things changed when the coronavirus pandemic hit New York. What was it like before and then during for someone trying to, meet people and try to get them to know who you are?
I mean, the strength of a grassroots movement is always at the door. So it was really, like if we had our way, we would have been able to meet people at their doors the entire time. But we definitely switched right away to prioritize people's safety and also our volunteer and team safety as well. And we switched to be 100% digital really quickly and did phone and text banking instead. And so we've been able to reach most of our universe either through text, phone, mailers, email, digital ads, and I'm pretty confident that we have a path to victory. And especially if you're watching this right now and you want to help make sure that we do, sign up to do some of that phone and text banking with us at act.laurenashcraft.com. But we also did switch. I got really involved in mutual aid in my community and helped to pack meals for families who needed it. And we also did wellness checks for about 2 months. Instead of just straight up phone banking, it was wellness checks on people in the community, seeing how we can help and what resources we could connect them with.
Right. It does seem like a double-edged sword for a progressive, like a challenger campaign, because yes, like you mentioned, there is that grassroots on the ground work that a campaign such as yours does so well. But at the same time, I'm sure you were also able to transition to a full-on digital organizing platform much quicker than, let's say, Carolyn Maloney.
I mean, we're really excited. We have the largest social media presence in the race, and I think it's because we have an amazing group, an amazing movement behind our campaign that I'm not quite sure what why. But
Right.
I think people know who we're fighting for. We're fighting for the working people. We're fighting for oppressed people. And we're fighting for diverse people. And we're fighting to end police brutality and close the wage gap and make sure that we all start on a level playing field. So I'm honored that our campaign and our message is clicking with so many people, and honored to build those relationships with people. I know I have like a very personal dialogue going with a lot of people on Twitter all the time, and I love being so directly connected with constituents.
You
So
have a very
I'm
strong support base. I've noticed. Like, obviously, I'm love to see all the progressive candidates doing so well, but I noticed specifically your campaign, yours and Jamal's are probably the two campaigns I've seen most active online in terms of not just from your own like social media profiles, but just supporters of yours active online.
I'm honored. I like, you know, I am an everyday person. So sometimes I just kind of see it happening and I'm like, why me? But I'm honored, and I love building those relationships with people, and I can't wait to fight on their behalf and continue to fight for them.
No, I didn't really plan on bringing them up, but you had mentioned there were other challengers, and I just want like say someone is in your district, and they go in, and they don't want Maloney, but they see three people running. How do they, what, who are the other people running? What are they? What makes you different from them as a challenger? If I was going in into the in your district and I was going to vote, I mean, I know who I'd vote for because I am very political, in the realm of this, progressive politics. But for someone who isn't, how would you differentiate yourself?
So one of the challengers has a lot of big dollar donors, not corporate PAC money, but a lot of maxed out donations that come from Indiana, which is where he's from, and just
Are
seems,
you running against Pete Buttigieg?
I mean, sometimes it seems like it, but yeah, no, he just seems really disconnected with the district, and we were kind of upset. We just caught them like ripping down our posters.
What?
So yeah, so I was hoping that like progressive challengers could be nicer to each other, but here we are. So, there's worse things in the world than to lose your posters, but I know our volunteers are spread out throughout the city and have worked really hard to get them up. So I was very irritated about this, but it's all part of the game. Very staunchly disagree on the approach to passing Medicare for all. I know he calls himself an Obama Democrat, and he
Oof.
is
Oof.
proposing yeah, proposing a compromise to Medicare for all called Medicare for Kids, in which kids get Medicare for all, but adults do not. So I don't really understand why people who aren't in Congress yet would be compromising already,
Do they
but
happen
that's
to consider a child to be anyone under the age of like 65, maybe?
I anyone who's alive. I don't know. It's just I don't get it. There's a lot of differences between me and him, and I hope that people realize that. I'm not willing to compromise on the lives of my neighbors who I know are struggling every single day.
Is the challenger you're talking about specifically the one who challenged Maloney last time around?
Yes.
Okay, right, yeah. Uh,
And had I approved of his campaigning that time, I wouldn't be here.
right, yeah. Makes sense, obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, because in other, like in Jamal Bowman's district, for example, there was another progressive running, and then when the polls started to come out and it started to show that Jamal Bowman had a real chance in beating Engel, they spoke with each other and they got together, and the other progressive challenger dropped out to throw his support behind Jamal Bowman. Now, obviously, if that was the case here, you would see something like that happen between the the progressive challenger and the person who calls themselves a progressive challenger. But from what you said, clearly that's not the case.
No, it's not even progressive infighting. It's like progressive plus whatever
Right.
fighting.
Right. Yes. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, you could be someone who, there's a difference to me between someone who even, like a liberal who likes Barack Obama, thought he was a great president. I mean,
Yeah.
the presidency is a low bar. So with that considered, Obama was a good president with that bar as low as it is, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that I didn't die. I needed health insurance and I could stay on my parents. And that was a very helpful thing to a lot of people. But I also really highly disagree with his immigration policies
Right.
and allowing endless war.
Right. So there's a difference between someone who feels that way about Obama, even likes the guy, even doesn't like to criticize him, but then someone who all out goes Obama Democrat. Like, that's the person who puts the donut in their Twitter handle. You know the type. But yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so Lauren, with just a few days left to go, what does a campaign do where literally down to the wire now? What's left to really... What do you feel like is the strategy now to get over that line and win this primary?
Yeah, well, we are calling thousands of people a day and reminding them to get out and vote. And if you would like to join us again, please go to act.laurenashcraft.com and sign up for a shift. It matters most right now. And I just, dropped literature off at 20 buildings today. So we're doing reminders. Somebody that volunteers with our campaign sent out 4,500 postcards on our behalf. And we're just really spreading the word. And I think our third mailer hit people's mailbox today. So if you're tuning in and meeting me for the first time, I hope you do consider voting for us and everything that our campaign stands for. We're really proud of our race.
I want to stress, too, to my listeners, whether you're on the podcast or the live stream, whenever you're listening to this, you don't have to live in Lauren's district to do these things. Like, if you cannot vote in her district because you don't live there, that's cool. But if there's nothing you do unless you move there. I don't think you could even move there really quick at this point. But you can still help. So I just want to put that out there. Lauren Ashcraft, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I want you to take this moment right now to plug whatever website, social media handles, anything you would like to plug to people so they know how to find you or support the campaign.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you again for having me on. And it's such a pleasure that you're using your platform to highlight our grassroots campaign. So thank you for that. And you can learn more about what I'm fighting for. You can donate. You can sign up to volunteer, all at laurenashcraft.com. And if you like some spicy takes on current events, what's going on in the world, you can follow me at Vote Ashcraft on any of the social medias. Literally any of them. I'm there. But mostly I'm on Twitter. So follow me, interact, ask me questions. I can't wait to hear from you. And let's win this thing together. We can really do this. It's really exciting.
Lauren, thank you so much. Good luck. This has been probably a once in a lifetime, running for office is a thing of it itself. But, running right now is like something that I don't think people will experience again for another 100 years. Like,
hope not.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible what's been going on. So really good luck.
Thank you.
And maybe next time you'll come on, and hopefully next time you come on, you'll be a representative.
I like this. I like this. We'll make it happen.
Yep. Take care. Really
Thank
appreciate you coming
you.
on.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bloop bloop. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is our show, but there's another show tomorrow. I told you I was going to put these shows together. I'm going to see about getting Lindsey Boylan on the show again. She said she would like to reschedule. Something came up. Totally get it. I totally understand. So I'm going to try to reach out and see if we can work something out. But tomorrow I will be back here, and hopefully you'll all be back here at youtube.com/Matt Binder, Twitter at Matt Binder for the Periscope feed, twitch.tv/Matt Binder. What else? Facebook.com, search Matt Binder, you'll find me on there. And I will be talking to two more congressional challengers in New York. Tomorrow we'll be talking about two who are strictly in Queens, one who is running to be the U.S. rep for my own district. So this person will be talking to someone who could very well be their constituent. So I'm going to be a little bit hard on him because I want to make sure that I'm getting a good U.S. rep. You know? Patreon.com/Matt Binder. Support the show if you can financially. Times are tough. I totally get it. So if you can monetarily support the show, I really appreciate it. We've lost a few patrons. I get it. I don't know how many times I need to say that, but I guess that's the guilt in me feeling like I'm complaining when I'm absolutely not. If you can't afford to subscribe to the show via money, don't. Because you can help the show by telling all your friends about it, by subscribing to the iTunes, Google Play, YouTube channels, leaving an iTunes review, the star review, the written review. It's all very helpful. You could also support this show by telling your favorite YouTuber or podcaster that you want to see them on my show. Them on my show and me on their show. You guys did that. And that got me on the majority port last time, which honestly, that shouldn't be what needs to get me on the majority port. Sam should just be reaching out to me all the time. But I digress. But it's also what got me on the Surfs next week. I will be on the Surfs next Tuesday. That is the New York primary date. But I will be on the Surfs that day. It will be tons of fun, I'm sure. I'm really looking forward to going on that show. What else? I'm trying to think. So youtube.com/Matt Binder, Twitter at Matt Binder. Oh, how could I forget you all? The people who do financially support the show. Oh, if you haven't already, you could drop a super chat in there. I will read just the super chats today. As you know, this week I'm not doing the members only show because I'm giving you guys tons of full-blown shows with... Oh, wait, let me remove that Skype logo there. Don't need that. Oh. My I don't have my green screen centered. Oh no. Did that fix it? There we go. Okay. You guys saw that I'll do it again for you. Here we go. Let's there we go. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you just saw my background without the green screen. Chroma keyed. Oh, we do got some super chats. Renee, check out the Steven Crowder and Street Painter clip, says Renee. I did see that. I'm strongly considering doing something different with these shows. Obviously, we're going to continue doing these New York primary shows. I'm having tons of fun. We had Bumita Ahmed, who's running for district leader on Monday. On Monday, we had... we're going to have a bunch of shows this week that Lauren just on right now. But I'm considering other ways to do this show after this week. And I do think, and a lot of you said you would want to see more of those movie shows where we do a watch-along together for a movie. Oh, of course, it's not always a movie I could play, but putting up clip compilations. And that Steven Crowder Street Painter clip is the perfect sort of candidate for those type of shows. Still do the interviews, still do the right-wing conspiracy theories, the bread and butter of the show. But I would like to do those clip shows. So I'm thinking we'll start doing those after this week too. I'll start putting some together. You guys can send me clips you see. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, so without any further ado, Abigail T, Adam Q, Alan B, Andrew C, Andrew H, Angela, RER, Baka, Ben, Benji, Bobby M, Brian S, Brosnan, Champagne Kami, Chris F, Christine H, Cindy G, Colin R, Connor R, CT, Cul-de-sac, Cyber Snowstorm, D, Dan K, Dank Uger, Dave K, David Z, Daya, Douglas V, Dragon Slayer, Eugene B, Froz K, Free Hat, FTW, Graham C, Greywind, Greg D with 2 G's, Grim, Helmi, Hitesh, Igor, Jack D, Jacob W, Jameson Test, Janelle A, Jasmine H, Jeremy M, JLS, John B, John S, Jonathan B, Joseph H, Joseph R, Joyce M, Justin S, Katie S, Kaushal, Kyle, Lisa D, Mariah, Mark S, Maddie J, Max W, me, Melissa M, Mitch V, Michael B, Michael J, Michael M, Mr. Danks, NS, Nicole A, Namde Net, Null Style, Odeth, Paul M, Penelope D, Qster, Rad Dad, Remy, Ryan, Scott R, Seth K, Sean H, Sheena A, Silicone Baby, Stephen R, Stephen S, Steve A, Tamni G, Hypervisor, This Is Not Pizza, Tina M, Tom M, Why That Tie Guy, Utopian, Zach, and Zoe G. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today on the show, on this episode of Doomed with Matt Binder. Making sure there's no other... Okay, we're all good. I will be back here tomorrow, whether you're watching the live stream or the podcast. There'll be a new episode streaming or on the podcast feed tomorrow. The New York primaries are June 23rd. You can vote early now if you're in New York. You can mail in your absentee ballot still if you received one. I believe it is now too late to request one, though. Or you can go in person on June 23rd. I think New York is handling the coronavirus very well at this point. Everyone is... honestly, I think we're handling it better than most of the rest of the country at this point. We were hit the hardest. Many people, at least that I've seen, realized they need to... take the precautions, and everyone here wears masks. There's been tons of protests. Everyone wears masks and has hand sanitizer, and that stuff is constantly being used and handed out. There's been no cases connected to the protests, the Black Lives Matter protests, I should say, because there were lockdown protests a couple months back where those people weren't wearing masks, and they aren't quite the same, I should say. All right, folks. See you all next time on Doomed.